You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, Disney.
Well, there you guys are. Here's our program, the midnight program, Healing After the Watchtower. We got Linda James, Apostle Babe. Well, she's your favorite apostate. And now we've got Pete, J.W. Curious. What a man and a half. He does the videos on YouTube. You see him all the time. He's a great guy. So what's happening tonight, guys?
We're just going to do like we usually do. We start with a subject. We hang with it for a while. If it takes us to another subject, we go there too. Yeah, right, Pete and I pretty much play off of each other pretty well.
Well, I'm thinking we got to get Pete on more often. Pete is he's a lovable guy. People love him here on the Six Screens. They tell me, get Pete on here more, Rick. For goodness sakes, get Pete on here more. So we got him on. So I know it's late up here in Massachusetts. Of course, he's 3 hours ahead of you, Linda. So poor Pete, he must get tired. I hope he took a little nap today, you know.
Yeah. I love the naps.
Yeah, it gets a little tiring around 1 o'clock in the morning here. But anyways, I'm going to step out of the scene. I'm going to let you guys do your thing. But I'm here if you need me. I'll be sleeping in the studio tonight. So let me know if you need me, okay?
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Apostle Babe, Linda James, your favorite apostate. And as you can see, I have Pete here with us tonight. And he is from his YouTube channel, XJW Curious. He usually puts out about 2 videos a week. And has recently talked about going down to 1 video a week, which I thought was very smart because he's been having some days where he's just not feeling good. So, matter of fact, I had invited him on, I think it was last week, and he had to turn me down. He just wasn't up to it, you know. But yeah, so I'm glad I got to hear from him earlier in the day. He's like, do you want a guest on? I said, if it's you, yes. So I got to find this out at last minute, and I was super, super happy because this has been kind of a tough month for him. But I'm really glad you're here. I was thinking we'll just go with subjects that you want to talk about or I want to talk about. See what's in the chat. See if things...
I see Greg. Greg is in the chat saying, I hope you're doing better, Pete. Yeah, I'm getting there. It's been a rough month, as Linda said. I actually missed doing a few videos because of it. But, yeah, I'm improving. It's still not...
So you sound...
Linda disappeared on me again.
No, we'll get Linda back.
Okay. Yeah, but I posted my first video in a couple of weeks, Tuesday. And I think going forward for a little bit, I'm just going to be doing my Tuesday videos until I can get back to 100%. But, you know, like I said, I'm getting better. That's why I decided to come on with Linda today. She's actually asked me last week, and I just wasn't up to it. And, you know, but here I am.
Hey, Pete?
Hey.
This is Susan.
Hi, Susan. How are you?
Kind of fill us in. Could you fill us in about what your videos are on? Because I haven't listened to them yet.
Oh, my videos are primarily dealing with Jehovah's Witness doctrines, you know, the false teachings of the Watchtower. And then I also do a lot of videos on current events in the JW world. Like my video Tuesday was about the woman who, you know, killed her 45-day-old baby after watching Stephen Lett say that babies are enemies of God.
Wow.
So,
Well,
yeah,
you have to listen to those.
yeah. I mean, I became a witness when I was 8 years old, back in 1969. And so, what I do in my videos is I try to present the material that I wish somebody could have presented to me 50 years ago. Trying to point out that, while the Jehovah's Witnesses teach one thing, if you actually look in the Bible, and even look in Watchtower literature, it contradicts what they're being taught. Just trying to help people wake up.
Hi, I got lost, but I got found. Thank you, Susan.
Now, be honest, were you just touching up your makeup?
I might have been. I could have been, but not this time. I didn't. I have been known to take a powder break to touch up my makeup. Oh yeah.
It's all
So
about
yeah,
looking good.
yeah, it is because well, when you can, you can. So, and you know what? I feel better in my makeup. I feel more put together and just I like makeup. But then again, I'm a hairdresser, so I really enjoy that. Okay, so smokeless choice just said in the chat. Stephen Lett needs to take better care of his crooked mouth. I'm not sure if I want to read the rest of this out loud. More often, either that or he best keep his mouth closed. Okay, smokeless choice. He's concerned that his mouth is going to lead to tragic events. Let's go there, Pete.
You have to
But go ahead
remember that, this talk was on a convention platform. So this talk was written months ago. It wasn't written by Steve. It was written by somebody in the writing, committee. Stephen was the one who was probably doing his Arnold Rorschach imitation. Oh, let me give this one.
That's too funny.
It's a script. It's a manuscript, and he was just following it, and he's the one that got to deliver it. Of course, as I said in my video like 2 weeks ago, I did a video when he first said it. Stephen's not a big fan of children. So it didn't surprise me that he was the one to deliver it. Marciano, this talk came right after Roe v. Wade was overturned. Coincidence?
I've been hearing a lot of people bring this up, and help me connect the connection because I'm not quite seeing it yet. I think I'm just missing a dot to connect.
I think with the Roe v. Wade thing that a lot of people are really missing the point. They're taking it as, that, oh no, abortion is legal now in the United States. All Roe v. Wade did when it was first implemented was put a government stamp of approval on abortion. By overturning it, what the Supreme Court is saying is this should not be a federal decision. This should be left up to each individual state to decide how they want to handle it, which is what the Constitution says. So the Supreme Court actually was, correcting a mistake that was made by the Supreme Court back in '73. The Supreme Court back then overstepped their bounds. It should never have been a federal issue. But I can see a lot of people.
Meaning putting them in all the states,
Yeah,
making it
right.
legal for. Okay, thank you.
So I mean,
Okay.
each state has the right to decide what they want to do with it. Some states may ban abortion. Other states may even open up even more than they were previously. So, but a lot of people are just, they hear Roe v. Wade is overturned and it's like a black and white thing. Oh no, we go from this extreme to this extreme. No, it's very much in the middle. So when people say that Stephen Let's Talk is a reaction to Roe v. Wade, no, because the talk was written months before. It's just, it wasn't given until after the decision was made.
Okay. So help me out, John, with a comment of connecting the dots. And I'm glad you said what you said, Pete, because that's helping me understand a bit better.
That's what
I don't know. I don't. It is what you're there for. I don't know everything about. Hello, JW Suicides. I don't know everything about the whole turning of. I didn't keep up with this, and I heard there's some things to read, and I haven't had a chance to get that paperwork yet to read that yet either. But I was talking to my daughter who's in town, and I was asking her about it, and she's like, that's where I used to be able to get things, that would help her female responsibilities when she, was being when she was going through a time of being sexually active. So that was where she could get a year's worth of the pill for free. Okay, so there was more to that, those clinics than the abortions. So
absolutely.
and I believe that it, and I could be way off wrong, but I believe that it was called Planned Parenthood, so that if they had more access to things to where they don't get pregnant, then they could plan for when they do get pregnant, and it was like, so I thought it was like that. And then there is the situations where there can be abortions there too. And there was abortions happening way before this happened. This got the okay in 73 or whatever. And I remember I don't know if you were on the show that night, but even the Bible talks about having abortions. And it was like, if a person, and this was Old Testament, if a person thought that their wife was cheating on them, they got to bring her to the priest and have her drink a bitter drink. And the intention of that was to abort the baby, so she would naturally miscarriage, but it wouldn't be natural, okay? And this is what I've heard, it also would make her barren. Now, back in that time, a woman who is barren is a true shame, is a true just dishonor, So somebody is saying, look up the PP founder, Margaret Singer. Yes, thank you, Jocelyn. I have not looked at Margaret Singer that much. I have looked at the other Margaret Singer, who is part of Berkeley and an ex-cult person who's was part of the beginning of the ex-cult movement. Her name is Margaret Singer too. And JW Suicide says that seems very much about protecting the male ego status. Okay. And I would like males to take more responsibility. And so, which I believe back in the day, it wasn't as easy to go into the local drugstore and get condoms, you know? Whereas now, like I think they used to be behind the counter at the pharmacy, so you'd have to like ask for them, that certain brand. But now they're so much more accessible, you know, which I think is a good thing. And I don't think it's promoting
Linda?
people to be promiscuous. Sure, who's this?
David.
Hi, David. How are you?
Hi. The big thing is we're all missing this big point. The lady was deaf, and I guess her husband might have been deaf. And then you had a sign language. You had to use sign language to tell her what Stephen Lett was saying. And then there's a limited amount of words in sign language to say something like that. And then if she was emotionally distressed with having the baby, okay, and then you had a couple months of where a woman goes through, they're so emotional about everything.
Yes,
and
we are. Mm-hmm.
When you're signing certain things to another human being, you can have it misinterpreted into your mind because you're used to not hearing it one way. And if somebody interprets it a different way to you,
yes,
and there was a signer up there signing up there on a stage, she was reading that signing person's thing, and then if another person came to her and talked to her a little bit, it might have interpreted it a different way, and that's why she killed this baby. Because my son is deaf.
Go ahead, David.
I understand sign language. I do sign language for my son. I've done it for 28 years.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people are missing the point on, because it's a different language that we don't get. A lot of people don't understand the concept in the basic English they're being taught. And it's very hard to put a sentence together, and if you miss a word or you interpret it a different way,
yes.
And just like if you say you're happy, okay?
Yes.
And then if you're sad, you're sad. But when you're saying one word, it means two different things maybe. And that's where we're missing this big point about this lady's mental state and her language that she has had.
I used to think sign language was a thing that went across the board and every single language would understand it. That is not the case. There's sign language for English, sign language for all the different languages, you know? And I've done the hair of someone who was deaf, and she'd come in, would do, you know, she would explain things to me. And I've known of somebody else who did sign language for a classroom my dad used to teach. And what I do remember is that the deaf don't want to be considered dumb or retarded or lack of not like slow, because they're not. But in the article that Pete put under his video, which please everybody go look at it, because it came out, I believe, earlier this week, right? Pete, earlier this week.
In that, the 16th or 17th.
So in that article,
The article might have been the 10th.
okay,
Yeah.
there's a few different things and a few different people that she encountered after the event of with her son. A couple of different people considered her having mental issues on the way of getting her there. Okay, that's from observation. Once she got to the place where she got, the judge ordered for her to get a mental evaluation, right? And you're right about after you have a baby, there could definitely be what is called postpartum depression. Now,
Before
what did you say? Sure, go ahead, Pete.
Before we get too far,
I was in the chat.
the article stated that before she killed the child, everybody that had dealt with her said she was very happy to be a mother. She showed no signs of PPD,
Can you hear
and
me?
she showed no violent tendencies.
Just a minute.
Now, when the article refers to the psychiatric evaluation, that was requested by the defense attorney. It was not court ordered yet.
I see.
And
Okay.
That article was about was the defense attorney is trying to put a mental health issue into the thing, but she showed no signs of anything up to that point. Now, to the point about the sign language, the sign language is so specific that, like, we have American Sign Language, which is obviously English, but even in Britain, they have British Sign Language, which is still English, but yet it's two different sign languages. This woman lives
interesting.
Right. This woman lives in Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
She speaks Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And the sign language is from jw.org. All right. It's the Watchtower's own, signers.
Version.
Oh, Greg. So Greg, are you the one that is trying to talk on the phone? I'm sorry. I was asking you to hold on. So there's a Greg that was trying to speak, and he just said, "Can you hear me? I'm on the phone." So when you're ready, Pete,
Speak up.
Greg has something to say. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Pete. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. So on the topic of the abortion and everything, I just wanted to comment that I'm a strong believer that if you do have a kid, even if it is by mistake, as a man, you should own up to taking care of that child and not let your the mother of your child to have an abortion. But in the end, I know it is the decision of the mother and the father. But that's just my personal point of view.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. I appreciate that.
In my neighborhood, down the end of my street, we have a Planned Parenthood facility. And,
do you? Okay.
And that's where my kids got their first condoms. Was down at the Planned Parenthood. A lot of people think, when they see Planned Parenthood, it's like, oh, an abortion center. It's like abortions represent less than 10% of what goes on at Planned Parenthood. The other 90% is, women's health for women who may not have insurance or, low income. And there's a lot more going on there than just abortions. But somehow that all gets swept under the rug because of the 10%. But there are, we have the religious protesters, who walk around with their prayer beads, doing their, praying for the souls. And I talk to them quite often because it's, interesting to hear, their indoctrination also. And I compare it to the indoctrination I had as a JW. So indoctrination comes in all shapes and sizes. But they have the blinders on just for the abortions, not understanding the greater good that the place actually does. And one of them one time, one of the protesters said to me, "Do you know what's going on in there?" And I said, "Yes. Thanks to your advertising, everybody knows." I said, "Because nobody knew that place was there till you all started advertising it." Best thing that could have happened to that place.
But Greg, I'm really glad you came on and spoke about the man, or the father being responsible. I thank you. Thank you a lot for that, because this seems like it's only a woman thing, but the men are there too, and it affects the men too. And I appreciate you sharing with me, with the audience, conscientiously what you believe. Thank you.
Tango.
What did you say?
It takes two to tango. The woman
Yes,
just
it does.
doesn't go, "I think I'm going to be pregnant today." Nah,
No, it's not.
no.
I never said that. I'll tell you what. Never. I think I'll be. No. No, I never said that. That was cute.
I wonder if Mary said that when Gabriel appeared.
That's hilarious. You just explained this, Pete. What those what Planned Parenting centers are, so much more like eloquently than I even could have. So I'm just like impressed right now. Very impressed.
I want to give you the file card on Margaret Sanger. Now she's gotten a
Can you repeat that, because I didn't hear it. Can you repeat that beginning part, because I missed it, and then please go ahead.
I'm going to give you the file card on Margaret Sanger.
Thank you.
Okay. Now she's gotten a bad rap recently, and she did say some racist things in her lifetime. I believe she was mostly in the 1920s. But one of the key points in her life was she was arrested for just printing in a newspaper that birth control existed.
Ooh. Enlightening. Okay.
Let's back to the 1920s. Now, the pill, as we know it, did not exist for most women until 1966, the same year the credit card was popularized for a woman to have it in her name. Okay?
Yeah.
1966 was really the beginning of women being their own people after thousands of years of having to ask their husband for stuff.
Yeah.
So most people today don't have that understanding of history. Before Margaret Sanger had the diaphragm as a form of birth control and was arrested for printing that she would be giving a lecture about birth control. Before that, it was not uncommon for a woman in a New York tenement, one-room apartment, to have 12 children.
Okay.
So
wow. Yeah.
And how women were chained full of parenthood. Most people have no concept of that today.
Yeah, a lot of big families. My mother was born. Well, she would have been 100 week and a half ago. So she was born 1922. She was one of 16
My
kids.
mother was born in 1918.
Yep. She was one of 16 kids.
There you go. My mother was one of 7, and my grandfather was one of 13. So this was the way the world was.
Yeah, well, they didn't have television. What else are you going to do with your
My grandpa was a fiddle player, so he only had 7 children, which sounds like today. So
it does.
With gigs and the second income, you know. And then he used to say jokingly, rich men have dogs, poor men have kids.
Mm.
Because the rich
Okay.
would be on trips, they'd take travels, they'd be away from each other, they'd have maybe more than one house or something. Rich people weren't always in each other's company, so they might have fewer children. So
that makes sense.
About it. Now, my ancestor, he practiced medicine before Roe, and he did not perform abortions, but he said of his patients, the rich women will go to Canada, the poor women will die in the street. And he tried to save the people that tried themselves, because often they would be near death, and he would have to do a surgery.
Okay.
So the young women today, they don't have a history of how the world was for 2,000 years. They really don't. And my concern, I think abortion is used as, it's never meant to be a form of birth control. I do think the young men step up and say, let's be parents together to the woman. But my concern right now are conditions where the woman would die if she doesn't have medical intervention. Some of these states are applying the birth control rulings to that, or the abortion rulings to that, and there are other medical conditions like, you know, the infant's never going to be born anyway. It's not alive, it's not correct, there's something seriously wrong, and these women could die. So that's where the doctors and nurses have to be able to do their jobs. But I do think it's overused if the child's going to be okay. You know, there should be ways to help young families and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go on in the world that might start off with honorable intentions, but there's always a percentage of people that are going to abuse it. Now, while there are some cases where an abortion is medically the best thing to do, there are women who use it as retroactive contraception.
And it really shouldn't be. It was supposed to be safe, legal, and rare.
Right.
The thing that is so objectionable to me is politicians that know nothing about medicine trying to stand in for the medical teams. It's really scary when you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
It is, because I've heard, and I haven't read it yet, but I've heard that it's so under no circumstances should a woman have an abortion. So that would include a tubal pregnancy. That's what I understand. Maybe I'm off on that, but what did you say? That's the case? Okay. So part of that, so I am understanding it correctly, that it's, even if a woman has a tubal pregnancy, an abortion is not okay to be done? Did I hear that correctly? Okay.
On the medical teams, but I think these medical teams will find a way around it to do their jobs. I'm sure they will.
I think so too. There's a thing called creative billing.
Doctor.
I actually talked over you on that last point you made. Can you make it again, please?
I said I think it's wacky that these politicians politically believe they can stand in for the wisdom of a doctor.
I agree.
And
So
if they will overturn this, where women's lives are at stake, which is an important issue, they also are seeking to overturn some other things that are not life and death issues, but they are socially interesting issues. There are people who ought to have same-sex marriages that are not partnerships, so they can have inherited property. They're playing with that.
Hey, Pixie.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we should meet up in September.
Okay, I'm always here. You got my number.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Did this conversation,
down the road.
David?
Okay, well, I'm not going anywhere.
Did this?
All right.
David, did this conversation go awry? And did I interrupt you getting to make your point? Did you get to make your point, David?
He was making a social.
Hello?
Hi, David. Hi, David.
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
Okay, good.
Okay. Saying hi to Pixie because I heard her voice on there, and we live like maybe 40 some miles away from each other.
Okay. Miss Pixie, I approve of this friendship. I've gotten to know our Dave a little bit, and I approve of this friendship, okay?
I'm glad somebody approves of something I do sometime.
I see in the chat, Bob
like
Roberts is saying, Bob Roberts is saying hi. Hi, Bob. Hope you're doing.
I bet you did get to. You got to finish your point, David, that you were starting to state though earlier.
Yeah, I was just telling you about the sign language. You have ASL, then you have the American Sign Language, then you have, in certain parts of the United States, it's taught a little bit different. And then when you are interpreting something or you're trying to say something to someone, it can be changed in a different way to that person. Miss Van Horn, the teacher taught me, she was hearing and she did ASL for us, was a shorter version of the English language, and that was to teach Brad certain things, my son, to say and to speak. And I feel so sorry for this lady. It killed her baby because just the way it could have been interpreted to her, and it breaks me apart because I see certain things being said to people and they can take it in a different way. And the hearing impaired and the deaf people in our general area. And just like when I went to Stanton, Virginia, I went to a class for the whole weekend. First time I ever gotten indoctrinated into sign language. I could not speak any sign language. I was sitting there and watching people use their hands, and I was like, wow, this is crazy to me because I didn't understand it. But I understood certain words mean a certain thing. And just like I'm hungry. Hungry is like using the letter C, making the letter C with your hand and bringing it from your chin down to your stomach. Well, I was told the Saturday morning you had to learn how to assign what you wanted to eat. So I said that I was hungry, and then if you took the letter C and brought it down to your chin 2 or 3 times, it meant that you're horny.
Oh my, there's a big difference, right? Or maybe it is kind of the same. I'll shut up now. Never mind.
But
I'm hungry for
I know that. I embarrassed myself. The lady turned red, and I thought, "Oh my God, what did I say?"
Too funny.
Look at me. But that's
And
what
when
I'm
you
saying. If
misunderstandings can definitely happen through sign language.
it's so easy, and this is why I brought this up, because a lot of people are missing that point of being deaf.
I had a relative that was a lecturer in sign at Gallaudet.
I love Gallaudet.
She was very high up in the deaf subculture, and she was a teacher and a administrator and a president of the Iowa School for the Deaf, and she often came to Gallaudet. And like you said, there's regional sign language. And it's my understanding, although I'm not a person that is fluent in American Sign Language, it's my understanding that the community was very upset because Watchtower has got their own signs and stuff for not using American Sign Language on some of their videos. And there was a lot of misinterpretation of a video they had that was related to Pillowgate. This thing.
Oh my, okay. Yeah.
And I got involved with that through Gallaudet because what I go through, and I knew 2 teachers there, and I knew 2 professors that have worked with Brad, my son, and I sat there I went up there like 8 or 9 meetings over some of the sign language Watchtower was using.
Yes.
And I told them this is wrong what they were saying. They knew it was wrong, but they wanted to make sure that the community of the deaf here in Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and West Virginia could understand that this is a wrong way of talking about God and everything.
Yes.
And
but what about some deaf person in Montana or Iowa that doesn't Gallaudet? They're going to see these videos too, and it's very unfair to them.
Exactly, across the whole country, basically.
Yes.
And a lot of communities have a different, a word can be the same, but it can mean 2 different
even if she had post or psychosis or whatever, the bigger issue is given her power.
You guys, something sounded like y'all were in outer space for a minute there.
Give up her the way you designed it to her. It was so hard on a baby.
I'm sorry, Dave and Pixie. I'm sorry, we're not able to understand you audibly.
Of having that child.
Right, and she was she was listening to the Watchtower in her mind rather than her own maternal knowing, might say.
Exactly, and this is what I was upset about, and I'm having my second grandchild in another 5 or 6 days.
Oh, that's
Really?
wonderful.
Congratulations.
So I kind of
Child to the neighborhood. That is wonderful.
I know these emotions with my daughter-in-law because she's went through so much emotions with this little one, and I see how hard it was on her so far, and I can see what that lady is going through because I don't know what the baby's name's going to be, but it's going to be a little girl the way I understand, but I'm hoping for another little boy yet. But this is what I'm trying. This is what I'm trying to say. That sign language can be interpreted so many different ways of one or two words going together.
Yes, it can. It can. But also, too, look at all the suicides that were emotionally unstable for one reason or another, and gave their power away to those guys in New York.
Yeah, it's
Can I say something?
Been a lot. All right, well, I'll let you go.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, David. And the message I got from you is that sign language can be tricky and there can be miscommunication easily. So thank you for bringing that up, especially because you've been involved in it. For communicating with your son, I appreciate that. Daniel, let me see if Pixie's done with what she wanted to say, and then we'll go to you. Okay, Daniel? Pixie, did you get a chance to finish your...
off here, so I'm going to mute myself. You have a good night, Linda.
Thank you, and I appreciate what you brought up. You brought up some really good points, and I appreciate that about Singer, what you said about her. Things I had no clue about.
She was not a saint, but you have to look at it in the context of the time and before and after that era.
Yeah.
Because women didn't
birth
really
control.
have anything. And even condoms, there were some people that had there were a few rich people that had condoms in the 1700s or 1800s or 1900s, but the common person did not practice birth control. She couldn't even print the lecture about it without being arrested. You couldn't talk about it publicly.
Fascinating.
As we're doing today.
And just the fact that Pete and I would we're talking about it casually, about our own children, and you are as well, says a lot about where we are at today. And that's, I think it's a good thing.
Just 100 years
By the way,
ago,
somebody in the chat...
Even a rich gentleman would have to go and whisper it to a pharmacist if he wanted a condom.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So
and
yes,
we have. There's someone in the chat from YouTube, Smokeless Choice, thinks you are amazing, Miss Pixie. Smokeless Choice said, Miss Pixie rocks. She's cool. And then just now he's like, hi, Pixie. So there you go, Smokeless Choice. I sent the message to her. And thank you for...
I'll have a fan club. I did radio news for years and I had no fans. And I come on here and talk about other crazy stuff and I got a fan club. So that made my week.
That's cool. You've been looking like you wanted to add something, Pete. Did you want to add something before Daniel talks?
I was just enjoying people appreciating Pixie. You know,
Me
Well,
too.
Pete and I, we have this radio love affair. You see, we're gonna have balloons made out of virtual condoms.
What, really? When did this was when was this going to happen?
Happening right now in the radio drama.
I'll tell
Okay.
you one,
Yeah, we
condoms make
theater of the
terrible
mind,
water balloons.
don't we, Pete?
Absolutely, Pixie.
Okay, Daniel, go ahead.
I just had a couple things to say. I just jumped on here, and you guys might have already talked about this, but when I heard about the sign language, I was thinking of a few years ago when the Watchtower did something in sign language, and it was talking about masturbation, and it was
Yes.
the way that it had that brother doing that, or that the male sign language guy, the way
That
he
was one of the most
just
awesome
it
videos.
just kind of seems so inappropriate. It's just, and you know, I've never been around people doing. I mean, I've seen sign language and stuff like that, but I know when that video first came out, even from what I heard, it may not be accurate, but it offended even people in the sign language community, and the way that the person was using the gestures and whatnot. And then the second thing I wanted to say, I've said this before, but when I was a teenager, in Young People's Ass book, it talked about masturbating and leading to homosexuality. And I've said this before. That was a true statement. I would have been gayer than a $2 bill.
I'm so glad to hear this.
You go through your natural hormone change and whatnot, and I was a busy kid. You know, Sears Catalog was one of my favorite in the swimsuit. But you know what? The craziest thing about that, how they put thoughts in your mind. I never, when I was, you know, as a teenager doing whatever, I never was thinking of somebody of the same sex. You know what I'm saying? So for them to say that masturbation leads to homosexuality is just a bunch of crock, you know? But it taints it in a way that you feel guilty for exploring your body or going through those changes. You know, your hormones go crazy wild, and oh my God, you give in to that, then all of a sudden you're going to be gay? Really? And I'm not saying,
and isn't,
you know, if somebody becomes gay, they become gay, but I'm saying you can't say masturbation leads to that.
homosexuality.
Yeah. Hey.
I was having a talk with my mom one night, and I just informed her, and by the way, Mom, that is not the cause of my homosexuality, okay? It just is not. And I was livid about it. Just livid. But in actuality, why would... Go ahead, Pete.
Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
In actuality, I think that statement is more towards putting fear in the thoughts of young men. Don't do that, otherwise you will become a homosexual someday. Can you imagine? Exactly. Kind of similar to don't do that or you may go blind, you know? It's to put fear in your heart. Morrison the third, right?
Off to go blind. I would have been more to go blind than
that was more likely.
I remember when I was in my young teen years.
Another example of them printing medical information that isn't accurate.
Yep. And
because if you do a deep search medically in the medical literature, and I'm a person very supportive of any views that people want to have for their own self and their sexuality. But if you do a deep search, the medical establishment is not clear on any causes of those behaviors yet. The gay community wants to say "Born That Way" and have a pop song. Well, that's nice to have a pop song. But if a person really looks at medical literature of hormonal, environment, or any causes for any men or women and how their sexuality is determined before they're 4 years old or 7 years old or whatever it is, it's still real murky medical literature.
Yes. And there has been history in the past with a lot of studies, and that has been ruined, destroyed. So, it doesn't always get to stick around.
Agree with each other. So we still don't have a clear picture on the great mysteries of sexuality in human behavior. Really, it's still a mystery.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
My humble opinion with the Watchtower is, if you step back and look at their history and look at the things that they put in print, if you look at and acknowledge that they're using subliminal images.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at power of suggestion.
Oh, yeah.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? You go to the doctor and the doctor says, "Oh, you have cancer or you have whatever, and you got 6 months to live." Believe it or not, and it has been proven in studies, the power of suggestion, people will take that on and they will die within that 6 months. Now, some don't. But my point is, the Watchtower does this for a reason, and I believe, and this is just my opinion, I've said this before, they want you to screw up. They want you to take on these patterns. They want to disfellowship you. They want to break you. They want to be able to mold you, because there are certain people that are going to fall in the cracks and make a mistake, and they'll take that power of suggestion, and they know there's maybe not so much today, but back in the day when I was a teenager, that disfellowshipping broke a lot of people and molded them the way that the organization wanted them to be, as loyal members. Like I said, it doesn't work on everybody. But rather than a health or wellness analogy, and you've made a valid medical point there, we should strive for wellness in everything we do. But what I'm seeing Madison Avenue techniques, where they use a question
Don't know what that means.
In advertising. They are in New York. They're where all the advertising is made. They always have been.
Okay. They do use a lot of question marks.
And they'll end the question mark like it's like the ad. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? Remember the old Dr. Pepper ad?
Yes.
Wouldn't you like to pepper too? Well, of course you want to be a pepper. Well, this recent one.
And there was a song and a dance and everything.
Yeah. And the recent one was, are you an agent of Satan? Well, it's like the way they set it up. It's like, well, don't you want to be one? So it gets ludicrous because they're playing with the paragraph in such a way that they're using neuro-linguistic programming. Go and learn about advertising, learn about neuro-linguistic programming. As was mentioned, learn about this power of suggestion. Don't give your power away to people that are going to determine your sickness, your wellness, your craziness, who you're in league with, and putting question marks on stuff. Just don't read it and don't give your power away to it. And they want to fail. They say you can't be an opera singer. Oh, I was an opera singer, and then I had to give that up to become a witness. Well, why is it all or nothing? Why couldn't she have been an opera singer that was also worshiping in a certain way?
Right. Denzel Washington. His father's a pastor. He's an actor. Does he still, is he still in that realm of Christianity? I don't know, but he's a good guy and makes great movies. Could he do both? I would think so.
He certainly has the freedom
Go ahead,
to do
Pete.
both things.
Yeah,
But
well,
they're playing with all or nothing in your mind, and they have
Ho-
done it for decades.
Yeah. Hold on just a second, Pixie, for Pete to answer.
yeah, everything that the Watchtower does in print is, they use what we call the loaded language. So you hear certain words, and in the magazines, they'll have a picture, which is, when you hear that word, you think of that picture. And that's, programming. And it's designed to promote like a Pavlovian reaction. So when you're talking to somebody about, Armageddon, automatically they're seeing those pictures of the hail falling down and people fleeing for their lives and all those horrible pictures that we saw in the magazines. When you talk about masturbation, you get all these images of bad things happening. Now I was 60 years old when I found out that masturbation is not a disfellowshipping offense. I
60,
almost,
like 660.
like last year.
I was just gonna say, that's why I'm asking specifically. Okay, last year you just that's cool.
Masturbation is not a disfellowshipping offense because I was reading, the Elder's Manual, and under like sexual misconduct, it's like masturbation is not considered parousia, sexual immorality. And I'm like, so why have they been, talking shit about it all these years? It doesn't make any
I recall hearing a word pornea. It seems to be a blanket statement over a whole lot of stuff. It's just like pornea, you're disfellowshipped.
Right. But masturbation is not considered pornea. So I'm like, well, great. So my mother was wrong all those times she was pounding on the bathroom door, yelling at me, Jehovah knows what you're doing in there and he doesn't like it. And I'm like, well, if he didn't want me to do it, he wouldn't have put it within reach.
I happen to agree with you. Hi, is this Pixie? I mean, Hitley?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I was just
Is this Hitley? Oh, how are you?
You can finish what you're saying.
Oh, I was just saying I happen to agree with Pete. If Jehovah didn't want us to reach it, maybe he should have made it to where we couldn't. And Bob Roberts in the chat says, hi, Hitley, which is actually Brad from Australia.
Oh, hi, Brad. I just wanted to say, because I was listening for a while, almost forgot my thought, but what Pixie was saying that, what was wrong with those on in the organization doing both, because in the Mormon religion, they have a lot of famous celebrities, famous people. The Osmonds, for example, was in famous singers, and had the TV show. They got into acting. They have production in Branson, Missouri. They're still doing their thing. And of course, their church has nothing against that. In fact, their church.
That was the Mormons.
The Mormons. Yeah, they they support them going to college and university and everything. So Watchtower is like, they discourage everything from soup to nuts. You can't do this. You can't even have
They're
hobbies.
backwards.
And exactly, very backwards. It's even to the point where one of my PMO friends told me, and I'm going to make this long story short, is that now two things what the Watchtower is doing. Not to get off
Okay.
about what we're saying. This is a sidebar point that
Sure.
a lot of the witnesses are talking about. Oh well, we're encouraged to watch certain shows. They like to watch about 3 of them that she spoke to, and one of my like distant cousins spoke about only watching Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, no.
But just mainly talked about mainly watching Little House on the Prairie. I asked one of them, along with one of my cousins who's not, that's a Pablo like me, what we like to see, the Thor movie that's out, Thor Love and Thunder, which is a Marvel movie. And they said, no, I'm not interested in that anymore. I'd rather just sit home and
Anymore? As in they once were? Oh.
Chris Hemsworth and everything, Marvel movie, And I looked at it, like, it has Christian Bale in it as well. So I looked at that and I was like, what? And this person used to love going to see Marvel movies, Star Trek, Star Wars, and what have you, Medea movies and the Fast and Furious. And this
love
person,
that. Love Medea.
And her son, they're like now saying that they want to stay home and stream Little House on the Prairie. Now I'm kind of tested it along with my cousin. We tested it, and my sister did too. And on a couple of PMEs and PMOs, we said, well, yeah, Little House is nice, and we like was that little Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, and said, oh no, not Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. And I know why for Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, because Michaela Quinn's character was an independent in the beginning of the show, non-married woman, even though the 3 children that she took under her wing and adopted everything, that was her sister's children. Now, and then also Billy was a younger man. He's about, 5 years younger, 10 years younger, whatever. And Watchtower probably didn't like that, even though that was set in the 1800s as well. Another thing, too, is Kim and Mikey had an excellent video about how Watchtower brought this company, QSCT, which is an internet and phone company. And they bought it for over $3 million.
Yes.
Making you wonder, are they going to have the organization? And I'm like a conspiracy theorist, that some people know me from being on 6 screens for a number of years now, that sometimes I have a suspicion that that's what they're going to do, is that they're not going to, that they're up to no good using this this company. And I know I may sound like Kim and Mikey, but they seem like they're up to no good with, and this is a very recent video that just came out this week.
Yes.
Or this past week, let me say, because it's here in New York, Eastern Standard Time, it's Sunday already. But anyways, that they may have the organization start using that company for not only internet service, but also cellular service, and not to try to monitor on all of the, rank and file, what they're watching, what they're downloading, and who they're calling.
That was a possibility, yes.
And not to get off about Roe versus Wade or about what happened with the young sister who, hard of hearing or deaf sister, and the situation with her child, or anything else. But it's just another bunch of notches to unknown, so to speak. Emerald, I'm sorry, Legacy, wherever you are. That's, to use this phrase that pays, that the organization is using to keep adding little issues little more stuff, more things to their CV, so to speak, their resume, so to speak. You know, it's just crazy. Oh well, I'm finished. That's all I wanted to say. Back to you guys.
Okay, so let me ask you: do you think there may have been some influence um, from the organization that would have resulted from her actions, Hitley? Maybe she doesn't want to give that.
Myself. What was
Okay.
that question? I muted myself.
Do you think there's any possible influence that the organization might have had on this young mother that could have been connected to the act of her killing her child, her baby, her infant?
I believe it. I believe, like Daniel was talking about subliminal. Hi, Daniel, wherever you are. Yeah, subliminal. Yes, I believe that there's this subliminal tactics being used for that, and it leads into even the smallest of things, such as telling people how to not only, to live their lives personally, as to careers, as to, and what Pixie was talking about, with advertising and everything, and then trying to tell people what to watch on TV, who to talk to, and who to even say hello to out in the street, and the little small things that on a neurological level. I mean, they've just have crossed the lines, and I believe that they've done something with this woman. Besides and I'm so surprised because thank you for clearing up about the sign language situation, because they've even went to the point of not going by, protocols as far as sign language is concerned. I mean, they made up their own lines of communication in more ways than one. It's a shocking thing. They're adding more, crap to their reputation.
I agree.
I believe they've done.
I agree.
And they don't care about the consequences.
Nope, they don't.
A lot of reverse psychology. It's like it's kind of like, say, be obedient and listen to us and don't do this, but then they put out the energy, the frequency through the subliminal to break people down, because they want them to be submissive. They want them, and the organization today has shifted so much, and they're very, if you really honestly step back and look at it, they're very desperate right now. They're trying to hold on.
Yes.
And they're shifting things and going many different directions. But if you honestly can just open your eyes and look at everything, they're very well sexual, a very sexual organization, very, I guess I would use the word demonic, or like black energy, negative, but portraying themselves as an angel of light, but they're actually quite the opposite. And it's actually scary where they're heading and what the things that they're involved in. And if you just look at it, for us to have been able to walk away and now see it from an outside view, you can see just how dangerous this cult is, of manipulating people and taking their power away, taking their identity away. I mean, it's nothing new under the sun. They've been doing it all along, but they've always used things to manipulate people and to get them to surrender. And it's a beautiful thing to hear people walking out and waking up. But there are so many other people that are still, even if they are on the fence, there's been so much brainwashing with guilt. They don't, they're scared. They don't, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being duped by the devil, you know? And that's why we have to be here and get ourselves strong enough to truly be able to come from a place of love and help these people. It can't be from a bitter place. It can't be from anger. It's got to be from love. That is the only way you're going to be able to shift this. It's the same thing with the world. What's going on with the world today? I've often thought about the direction that we're going right now is horrific. It's life-changing. But for us, if we truly want to be a part of a change in the world, it's love. It is love. And that's how we're going to unite people.
It's also a spirit of a sound mind and using reason, because many of us have checked that at the door when we're in a religious culty environment. I have a question. Remember how we had the funny stories of how we had to walk both ways through the Amazon and the alligators, and we walked over the alligators and all that stuff? Remember those fun stories?
Yeah.
We had to walk over the alligators in the Amazon, and we changed our clothes, and we had perfect meeting clothes and all that, right?
Oh, brother.
I have great who had the postcard.
I think Hitley's heard this story before. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting, Pixie. Please go ahead.
Yeah, well, didn't we all walk over those alligators? I know I did in my mind. Both ways. I have great compassion for this woman and her postpartum and the sad tragedy of the murder of the child and everything. It's a terrible story. But do we have any indication, and I don't demean this woman's experience, but I'm asking a witness serious question regarding those alligators, because we know Andre isn't real in the stories. We know the alligators are not coming to Virginia. Do we know that the story of this poor woman and this child, do we know that it's real?
Very good question.
Thank you. That's my question for the evening. I'm going to see what everybody answers, and I might even drift off to sleep, but I'm keenly interested in what others might view on that issue.
Is she asking about the woman who killed the baby?
Yes. Do we know if like all of this is true?
Well, it was in the newspaper.
They had the article in the XJW Reddit. What was that? It was translated in English from Spanish.
Yeah, it was on the extra.nc website.
So I took it as that.
It's a real newspaper. It's a real newspaper article. And you won't ever see it on jw.org, which means it's even more credible. And it's not like the articles that you read in the Watchtower where, you know, one brother traveled 27 miles daily crossing piranha-filled rivers just to go out on service. Yeah, it's not like one of those. You know, this was a real newspaper talking about a real person killing a real baby after watching an unreal Stephen Lett say a very comment.
Now you, Pete, on your video, did a connection on like what you were talking about earlier. When one thing is said, it makes your brain think in this other way because you already have a connection. And that's how I think 1975 happened. 6,000 years, a couple of other little things, you put it together, the puzzle ends up 1975. So do you recall that connection that you made that just It was so made sense.
I mean, as Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses are taught to be in a fog. FOG. There's fear, obligation, and guilt. Now, we're always taught that Satan is God's enemy, and Satan is our enemy, and Satan is evil. And this is drilled and drilled and drilled and drummed into our heads, so that any association of anything that's associated with Satan, the Pavlovian reaction is that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. Now, Stephen Lett comes out and he says, look at that little enemy of God. There, how far do you have to leap to go from look at that little enemy of God to, oh, that's a friend of Satan, and Satan is evil. And the woman said that when she looked at her baby, she saw the devil inside him. So it's not a big leap of faith to think that all her indoctrination is a witness, that Satan is evil, Satan is our enemy, and then Stephen Lett says that babies are enemies of God too. So there's a conflation that the baby is an enemy of God. The baby must be in cahoots with Satan. And
I really think,
as far as the translating of sign language, yeah, there is some, misinterpretations that can happen. But look at the little enemy of God does not really leave itself to a lot of vagueness. So I don't know how you can misunderstand that message.
But see, then this is where the Watchtower contradicts themselves, because then you have the scripture in the Bible where I think Jesus was talking to the young ones, and the disciples came and they were trying to shoo away the children, like Christ didn't have time for them, and he basically said they were precious gifts from God.
Right.
So, what are they? Are they little demons, or are they?
Well, the Bible says that they're a blessing from God. Right? In Psalms, the Bible says children are a blessing from. The first command God ever gave Adam and Eve was be fruitful and fill the earth. Why would God command them to fill the earth with little enemies of God? Here is
that would
point.
be
right. Notice that when Stephen gave that comment, he attached no scripture to it. This is 100% a man-made thought. It has nothing to do with scripture.
They've done it with what's his name? With Morris, all of them. When they make their stupid asinine comments, there is no scriptural support.
Right.
And as you were saying, and I agree, this is a full man-made organization. They just give crap off the top of their heads. They're crazy, alcoholic, mentally ill heads.
Absolutely.
Narcissists is what they are.
Thank you. Arrogance as well.
You know what? A couple years ago, my daughter's she's 13. A couple years ago, her mom and her met Stephen Lett at an assembly.
I remember that.
listened to her talk, and it was like he was a celebrity. You know, here we're not supposed to, like, if we went to a Michael Jackson concert or went to, you know, one of our favorite artists or whatnot, and we put a poster in our room, we're not supposed to do any of that, right? Well, guess what? Well, my daughter met Stephen Ladd. He welcomed pictures being taken. He was getting pictures done with different sisters, different brothers, families, whatever. And guess what those brothers and sisters are going to do? They're going to print that picture out, and they're going to stick it on their wall or in a frame on their fireplace or whatever. And my daughter was so excited about that. So what are you doing? You're idolizing a person, you know, and we're supposedly not even supposed to have a picture of Christ in our house. You know, because they attack the Catholic Church because Catholics will have a picture of Jesus or Mary or whatever in their home, but yet Jehovah's Witnesses will have pictures taken with the governing body,
and they'll take you know, witnesses for having pictures of Michael Jackson, of you know, different other, you know, celebrities, and he talk about different other celebrities. And when it was the GB 1.0 with Schroeder and Sitlick and Barber and all them, I mean, some of the friends did in the past, you know, to piggyback on what you're saying, Daniel. They did take pictures of them, but they didn't, like, fall over, like, you know, like they were going to fall out, you know, or something like. And some of the times they didn't want pictures with some of the friends. They had an aura of humility. Those former group of GB, you know, what we call GB 1.0, they had that. Some of them would, you know, they were very nice. They shook the hands of the friends. You know, they didn't hug any sisters or brothers, anyone, but they just shook their hands and they went on. You know, they didn't have the arrogance like Morris did and some of the others did, you know, and they did what, and they were, to me, they, you know, believed a little bit more in what they were saying as far as, and whenever they said anything, they made sure they had a scripture to support as much as they could, you know, from some of the stuff that I've heard them give. This group now, you know, it's all about, you know, appearances. I guess that's why they're so happy that they have JW Broadcasting.
Yep. Here's the point I'm trying to make, is they've always hijacked Christ. The governing body is hijacked Christ, is the mediator. They somehow supersede him. Now think about this. You're not encouraged to have a picture of Christ in your house, on your wall. But it's okay to get a picture with a governing body member and put that in your picture frame. And they don't tell you don't put it on your wall. They don't tell you not to put it in a frame and be proud of it. I haven't heard them say that. But
very good point.
Discouraged is not to have a picture of Jesus on your wall. What the hell's wrong with that? I mean, if that's your belief and he's your mediator, what is wrong with having a picture of Christ? I mean, if that's your belief system, are you ashamed to have a picture of Christ on your wall? I mean, but it's okay to have a governing body member. You know, it's the hypocrisy. When you're dealing with narcissists, you see how they switch things up and they become the light. They become the mediator. And that's what this organization has done. They've hijacked Christ majority of the time, but still come out with a book, The Greatest Teacher Who Ever Lived, just to appeal to people that they're Christian. But they'll hijack Christ and every other thing. Look at the memorial. Look at the memorial. The ones don't even have a right to partake. They're a lesser of a person, and you're rejecting the blood of Christ at the memorial. How many witnesses do that and not even realizing that if you're truly a Christian, that's your belief system, then you have every right to partake because you're honoring the whole thing that most Jehovah's Witnesses do not recognize. The apostles were not of the anointed yet. The anointed happened in Pentecost 33 CE. So when Christ came to them and went over this whole partaking and what it represented, it was acknowledging what he was about to do, and it was acknowledging that he was going to give his life and what the bread represented and what the wine represented. It had nothing to do with a great crowd and the one's going to heaven and the one's living on earth. That he wasn't even teaching anything like that. It was simply acknowledging his sacrifice and what it meant. And they were not of the anointed. So why don't Jehovah's Witnesses realize that?
Rutherford came up with that teaching.
It happened later. Yeah.
Daniel, that's exactly
the partaking was.
That point of Pentecost was told to me when I was a small child. So you are biblically accurate.
I didn't know that though until so much on my way out. I was doing research on something else, and stumbled across the scripture that I have read, like we all have, over and over again, especially during the time of the memorial, and it never clicked with me until I stumbled across it and just read it directly in the context that it was written in, and I was like, oh my God, all that time I had rejected the blood of Christ. The same thing Satanists do, and Jehovah's Witnesses have no clue.
Also, we were told not to have creature worship. I'm probably the oldest one online here tonight, and I was a big Beatles fan. And we were told, put the pictures of the Beatles up from the White Album. The White Album included color photographs of the Beatles, and I thought it was so funny because about 8 years ago, the cover of the Watchtower has kind of a almost composite, almost Beatles Jesus, which I thought was so cute. I kept it. It was quite the art department at its finest. And now I'm looking at that cover from 7 or 8 years ago saying, wait a minute, the art department knows everything. That's pretty ironic because now the governing body wants to be like the Beatles. And I think you've made a real valid point with the mediator issue. They say because they are anointed that the great crowd has to revere them, mediator, and we know that is not biblical.
Hey, Linda.
Yes. Yes, David.
I'll see you later. I gotta go to bed. I gotta be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So you guys take it easy.
Thanks for stopping in today.
I'll be gone for about maybe 2 weeks. I will be going out. Might be going to Alaska in the end of September for a while. So you just keep me in your prayers because this is going to be a rough trip.
Okay. Yes, I did. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Nigel just showed up in the chat, and I just admire him so much. I went, "Whoa, he's here!" Hi, Nigel. I don't know if he's ever shown up before, but I did hear you, David. Thank you.
All right. Well, you guys keep me in your prayers because this is going to be a really rough trip for me, and I'm going for doing what I do.
Oh,
thank you.
They have come up there too.
Big time. I was called. I was.
Just don't shave, David, from now to when September. That way you're going to blend in with them.
Yeah, I hope so.
Wait a minute. Blend in with them. Who's them?
Miracle Grow.
People in Alaska.
Okay.
You use some of that fertilizer, that Miracle Grow stuff they use for growing your garden really fast. If you put that all over your body, I believe you'll definitely fit in.
Tia.
What? Really?
Tia.
We've gone into the Daniel logic.
Daniel brought up that subject about
Just David, the one thing that I ask you not to do with if you come across some of them there, do not do the sign language about masturbation. It will offend them, and you might be hugged for a very long time.
yeah.
Oh no. Okay. You were trying to say something, weren't you, Pete?
Yeah, I was really glad that Daniel brought up the great crowd thing because my video Tuesday is going to be on that very subject. How the
Right.
Watchtower, perverts the teaching of the 144,000 and in particularly the great crowd. Because the great crowd are not who the Watchtower tells us they are. Shocking revelation Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern on XJW Curious. And that's my shameless plug.
Hey, Linda, can you send me his information so I can watch that? Or can you
Yes.
give him my information so that I can somehow, whether it's email or whatever, because there's something what he's saying there that this is where it triggered me in the Watchtower is if it was so important that that there would be observers and partakers. If it was so important that partaking was only for certain people, why didn't he make that specific? Why didn't he say
Good question.
there'll be observers and there'll be partakers? There is nothing there, at least, okay, what I have looked at, I have not found anything separating two different groups.
Well,
And Watchtower uses the scripture talking about the Gentiles and the Jews, talking about, how does it say that? Two folds will become one or something like that. And the Watchtower uses that.
Jehovah's Witnesses did all partake.
About the conversion of the Jews at that point, but when Christ is at the supper in the Greek, it says all.
Okay. Hold on just a minute here. I have to interrupt. Mr. M, are you talking about myself and my swirl that's here? Is that what you noticed? Is this the swirl you're talking about? Mr. M? Okay, so if that's the case, I think you should be corrected by me. Okay, so and are you talking about it in the realm of pedophilia? Boy swirls. Okay, let me tell you what this is. This is something that people wrap around them when they go to the pool. See how it's got a whole lot of designs on it? So I put it over my shoulders. And I have a style that is just kind of gypsy and, has like this different stuff on it. Yeah. So I'm not really into how you have come to discover what these symbols mean. So,
Mr. Ryan is just a troll.
yeah, just thought I'd let you know.
All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a good night.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
All right, I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bless.
No, but Daniel, I was saying that up until 1935, all Jehovah's Witnesses partook at the memorial. You can look up in the 1936 yearbook, and it'll tell you that over 80% of the attendees partook of the emblems. That's because up until 1935,
too.
all Jehovah's Witnesses were considered anointed.
Yes.
And in 1935,
And
Rutherford,
then Judge Rutherford closed the door, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I believe if I read what was correct, because this has been some years now, Judge Rutherford closed the door and
right.
said basically everybody else coming into the organization was of the great crowd. Now think about this. Here, my dad started partaking in the 80s, and it was interesting because there was a talk given eventually about the generations. It was talking about, if I'm saying this correctly, I'm trying to think how this went at the assembly, is basically anybody that started partaking when Fred Franz was still alive, that generation kept on going, basically. So my dad started partaking somewhere before, if I'm saying this right, it's been, like I said, it's been a long time since I've researched this, but it was very fascinating to me because my dad started partaking before he died. So my dad was a continuation of that generation, along with whoever else was partaking too. But so that generation can keep going on and on and on, because if somebody else started partaking before my dad and whoever else was partaking, they basically found a loophole, which didn't make
overlapping generation teaching.
But my dad made sense out of it, and I just was like, Dad, for real, come on. Look at the scriptures. I mean, where is this scripturally? It's nonsense. They were grasping to try to get away from 1914, try to not even have to deal with it. But it was ludicrous. But my dad couldn't even explain it, but he just accepted it as truth because it came from the faithful and discreet slave. And it made me sad. It made me really sad that he couldn't even prove it scripturally, but he bought into it because it came from them. It's just, yeah. Anyway. No, I agree with you, brother. You bring out points that I discovered myself too, and it's just, but I didn't even realize they were right there in front of me, until you start to wake up and look through a different lens, so to speak.
Yeah.
But thank you, Pete, for sharing what you're sharing, because it's very vital that people, even maybe somebody's new on the call tonight, or somebody that's been here for a while, doesn't realize that how far we've been deceived in this organization, as far as if you believe in the Bible and believe in truth, how they've used the Bible to manipulate truth.
Oh, yeah.
It's a sad.
When you start comparing Watchtower's teachings to the Bible, it's night and day. Like if you look up 1 Timothy, I think it's 2:5, it says plain and simple, that Jesus Christ is the mediator for all men. Yet the Watchtower teaches us that Jesus is the mediator only for the 144,000.
Yeah. Yeah. When you read that in the context that it was written in, it's very simple to understand. There's nothing scratching your head. But the Watchtower has taken such simple scriptures and manipulated them and to use that to control their members. The governing body does not do anything without basically to control you, to manipulate you, to have you under their thumb. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about control. They will manipulate and twist and add and remove. Remember the Watchtower? There was a Watchtower study. I'm trying to remember what year it was. Oh, okay, I got to think here for a second. I want to say it's been that long. Okay. My son's
What
20.
was some of the points that was in that article?
20 years ago, they had a Watchtower article, and it was basically saying that the faithful and discreet slaves superseded Christ, or like they, how did they put it? They became the mediator. There's a word that they used in the Watchtower article, and they quoted a scripture. It's been a long, long time.
2 Corinthians 5:20.
Basically, what's that?
2 Corinthians 5:20. In the New World Translation, they changed it to say they are substitutes for the Christ.
Yes, exactly. Isn't that disgusting? I was just blown away.
That's blasphemous, really.
He called me.
Really.
I was already out of the Watchtower, and he calls me on the phone. I had been talking to him kind of slowly because he was born and raised a Pentecostal. His dad was a preacher. He eventually became a Jehovah's Witness, and I had known him for years before he was a witness. And when I was on my way out, we were best friends, so I was sharing different things with him, but I was trying to be careful. But when he saw that article, he left the meeting, went outside to his car, and called me and says, "Have you seen this study article?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Let me share something with you." And he shared that scripture that was in the New World Translation. That hurt his spirit because he knew it was false. It was not true. And that's what woke him up. He left the Watchtower at that article, totally with everything that I was able to share with him, and he saw it for himself.
Yep.
He left the Watchtower from that article because he saw it as blasphemous. He saw it as they were putting emphasis on themselves and replacing Christ, like they were temporary, substitutes for Christ. And the Bible doesn't say that. It's Christ died for us. He took away the sin. It doesn't say his disciples did. It doesn't say praise my disciples because they're gonna do this and that. No, it's what he did. He died for all mankind.
Yes. There's even
anyway, Pete, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you, Pete. I apologize.
No, I was done with my point.
I just wanted to say to you and Pete and everyone, Linda and what have you. I'm gonna make this point quickly. On Liam Ramini's Scientology, there was an expose special about Jehovah's Witnesses. They had, of course, that Lloyd and some other people up there, XJW Fitz and Cliff Henderson, who was in former Beth Light and what have you. and they had shown a flow chart that was in an actual Watchtower, where they had Jehovah First in Jesus' spot on the next box. They had the governing body, and then they had other branches of the organization. They did not have Jesus anywhere on that flow chart, because it usually would be normally Jehovah, Jesus, and then governing body, and so on, so forth. So
Yes.
I was, when I saw that, I was amazed, and it's on YouTube. I don't think she made sure, or A&E, you know, the network Arts and Entertainment, probably is making sure that YouTube keeps that episode, you know, on YouTube, so people can watch it, and it's there. Then in another, on the XJW Reddit, they had another Reddit member had posted another information from Hierarchy, and this from the organization itself, from Watchtower itself, about how they have Jehovah, and then they have the governing body also. And they said that's quite recent, too. So they've, you know, they kicked Christ just out of the picture, like he's not non-existent. And that's what I call blasphemy. That's what I call blasphemy. You know?
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment? I've been watching this troll, Mr. M, make various comments. And I just want to correct him on something. He keeps saying that we're attacking Jehovah's Witnesses and we're saying bad things about Jehovah's Witnesses. That is absolutely not true. We love Jehovah's Witnesses. They are generally a very good group of people. There's always a few bad ones here and there. Our problem is with the leadership. The Watchtower Corporation, which is deceitful, dangerous, and deadly, operating in a cult-like manner to control the lives of these honest, sincere people who are being misled by this dangerous cult. So we are not, attacking Jehovah's Witnesses. Even though I've been out of the organization for over 40 years, I still have friends in the organization. So the trying to portray us as speaking out against Jehovah's Witnesses, that's a Watchtower lie that you're indoctrinated to think. That's it.
They're victims. They're victims just like we were.
And we really love PME. We really love PMEs, okay? Mwah, to all the PMEs out there.
Yep.
And see, that's the thing that, even Rick has brought out, is people think, oh, you left the Watchtower, you left God behind, and you're vicious and you're vindictive, and it's not like that. It's like you said, Pete. I still have majority of my family is in there, and so is my daughter. And the best way that I share stuff with my daughter and different ones is by love. It's I don't have animosity towards witnesses. I do have. I'll just say it makes me upset when people manipulate people and they twist things for their own gain. That I don't like. But I don't have hate for them. I hate what they're doing. But it's the best way to help our friends and our families is love. And the way we can do that is by healing. is by allowing ourselves to heal and to reclaim our identity, take our power back, and to move forward in our life, and then share with different ones, because then you're not coming from a place of because this is where people mistake it, is sometimes when we first leave, we first awaken, you go through phases of sadness, you go through phases of anger, because you were tricked, you were deceived. And when you wake up, you go through all of these different emotions. And so sometimes, yeah, people do come across as angry or upset. But the more that we can heal and forgive and like I said, take back your power, take back your identity, and then share with people, you're coming from a different place. And it's, basically what you're doing is what you were always taught to do as a Jehovah's Witness, is share. Share, share, share. And if you don't share, what did the organization tell us? If we don't go out in service and share, we could share in their blood guilt. We could be blood guilty. So all we're doing in reality is, once we heal, or as we're healing, what are we doing? We're sharing, as we were taught to do as Jehovah's Witnesses.
True. Makes a lot of sense, what you're saying. It does.
We just have to be careful where we come from. And sometimes and I'm guilty of it too, especially when I was first coming out, I'm sure I vomited all over my parents, because I saw the faults, and I thought that I could share with them because they raised me this way, but I had to learn that a typical witness shuts down. You can say very little, all of a sudden they're exhausted. They're just, I can't deal with this right now, or I can't. You could be using scripture, you could be using their own publications, and they can't handle it because they've been taught subconsciously even red flags. So they get a red flag, somebody's saying something against the organization or proving a point, they mentally just shut down. They can't handle it. But they have no problem going to somebody's home uninvited and telling them about their religion and telling them how their religion is false, telling them how they're going to die at Armageddon if they don't become one of Jehovah's Witnesses. They have no problem doing that, but they don't want to. If you turn around and do the same thing that they're doing and you do it to them, they crumble. They can't handle it.
They want you to become an apostate from the religion you're in now, but you can't be an apostate from their religion.
Yeah.
True that. They want to be the foremost, the foremost authority on every single thing in the universe, even to the most minute issues or something minute. They want to be the end all, the be all, and that's arrogance. That's narcissism, and highest degree. And it just doesn't. It's just really, to me, it just boggles the mind. That's what it can make anyone, even a person who's never been a witness, who might have read some of the literature. That's what could cause them to have a hatred for that organization, or anyone who has respect for the organization. They can. It really. It's really. It's really ungodly, and it's actually also illogical. I don't see any logic in what they're purporting. You know.
Well, think of this. We were taught to be lovers of truth. And when you discover that the truth has been, it's not the truth, and you were a lover of that, it's, I think I hope if there's people listening that you would stop and just think for yourself for a moment. When you worship in spirit and truth, see, a spiritual person would be like the Bereans in the Bible. They questioned, they studied, they wanted to make sure what they were being taught was truth. Too many people in this world today are religious people. And this is what I realized when I was leaving the Watchtower. Because I was brought up in the Watchtower. I didn't know anything else but being a witness. As a religious person, which majority of them are, they don't think for themselves. They just, okay, what do I got to do? Okay, the governing body or the faithful slave is saying this, saying that, so this is what I got to do. It's typical even in the churches today. They go, they listen. What do I got to do? I don't want to think about it. A spiritual person is different than a religious person. A spiritual person is like a baby. Why, Daddy? Why, Mama? Why? That's the Berean in you, in a sense, is asking questions. You're growing. That's how you grow. That's how you learn. That's how you continue to grow. You don't just accept. You don't just follow. And even Christ, think about the scripture where Christ said that you are now a free people. Be careful you don't allow your yokes to become enslaved again. Why doesn't a witness think about that? See, the Watchtower put their people back under slavery. Is that where you had to be obedient to them? You remember years and years ago, and this goes back to when I was a teenager, there was something that came out, and it was something, I don't remember if it was a talk or if it was in the Watchtower, I don't remember now, but it was something to the effect that your loyalty to the faithful and discreet slave was the same of being loyal to Jehovah. If how do they put, I can't remember their exact wording, but basically, if you did not follow everything the faithful and discreet slave said, then you were disloyal to Jehovah. And you were, it was whether apostasy or whatever they were trying to say at the time. But think about it. That's not what Christ said.
No, it's not what Christ said. Mm-hmm.
You are now a free people. Be careful you don't allow your yoke to be enslaved again. Think about that, because what was going on during that time with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, all that stuff that was going on, they were putting more laws than even God had on them, almost making it virtually impossible to be faithful.
Mm-hmm.
And people
history is repeating itself.
See these scriptures. Yeah, history repeats itself, and people just follow instead of being led by the Spirit. Or even if you want to say, I will say this because of where I'm at today, is even being led by your intuition. Because of who you are, the way we were created, you can feel a gut feeling something's not right, and people need to start listening to their gut, not just in religion, but in the world events. We need to start paying attention to what is not right and start following our intuition. It's a God-given birthright. It's the way we were created. We aren't stupid, but we've been dumbed down
gift, actually.
by...
Continue. I'm sorry, Daniel. Yeah.
No, I could be wrong. I'm just only sharing with what I feel. And who knows, in 6 months, a year, maybe that changes. But it's just what I've learned from being raised in a cult and waking up and realizing where we're at in this, in this life. It's we got to start paying attention. We got to start waking up and looking through our own eyes and not allowing other people to program us, whether it's politics, whether it's the world events, whether it's religion, whatnot. We're being deceived on so many different levels. It's time that we rise as a people and get united. And I'm going to say it again. You want to change the world, it's love. And we've got to become united as a people. We really do, because things are
not
shifting
take things on
very quickly.
And not take things on face value. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much. That's just
No. I'm just saying what I'm saying because I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah. But Pete's got a lot of good information, and I apologize, Pete, if I'm overstepping.
Oh.
What you're trying to share, brother. Go ahead. I apologize.
Sorry, Pete.
I'm enjoying this. Making a bunch of very cogent and valid points.
That's hilarious.
What are you reading the comments?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I stand. Obviously we weren't, as an organization, most of us anyway, weren't involved in anything political, voting, doing anything like that, whether it's Democrat, Republican, whatnot. And so the whole coming out of the organization, and you see the bickering between two parties, and it's and where this world's going right now in a very rapid rate that I see anyway. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's just what I'm seeing is we're going down a deep rabbit hole that is shifting this on this is the first time I've ever seen, and it could be because, coming out of the Watchtower, I wasn't involved in political stuff and voting and whatnot. But in the last few years, what I've noticed since, I will say, this is just my perception, okay? Since Trump when he became president, and I'm not saying I'm for Trump, against Trump, whatever, it's not like that. It's saying in that timeline, there was a major shift. And then Joe Biden's president, it's, again, not knocking any president, whatever. I'm just saying, if you look at the world events going on and where we're at today, it has shifted in a rapid rate. If we're not careful, not only civil war, but we got other countries to worry about too, like China attacking Taiwan. You've got Ukraine and a Russia thing going on. There is, if you stop and pay attention to what's going on, we're in a place, probably the first time in our history, or at least in my lifetime, that we got to get ourselves together. I'm not talking about going out and protesting and doing whatnot. We got to do something to unite each other and stand up for truth, stand up for our freedom, in a peaceful way and shift this whole paradigm, shift this whole energy, because it's like, all I can say to you is how I see it energetically. It's like being on a cruise ship and you got a captain. And say that captain has just lost his mind. But you're relying on that captain to take you to a destination, right?
Yes.
Well, let's just make it bigger than that. Let's just say you're on such a huge ship. It's like whatever happens on that ship affects the globe. It's a global event. We have some serious stuff going on right now that if you think you don't have any part in it, you can't change, you're wrong. It's all of us coming together, and it's going to take that to shift to keep this boat from causing a global devastation to where it affects the whole entire world. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. I'm just sharing with you what I feel, and I know people aren't going to agree with me, but that's fine. Because I'm not saying, I'm just sharing what I feel. We're going down.
I hear you.
That we got to shift this. We have got to shift this. We can't feel helpless. We can't feel like, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just me. Because I have felt that in my life. But you know what? I realized we can. And it's about us becoming united. And it's about love. That is the only thing that's going to shift it. We can't be angry going out there and blowing up buildings and burning down cars and attacking the police and doing all this garbage.
Exactly.
We got to be united in love. That is the only thing that's where we have a possible chance. Otherwise, it's not good. I'll just leave it as that.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You know, if you're not going to be part of as they always said, the old saying or the old adage, if you're not going to be part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So you got to have some kind of peaceful, make sure that there's a peaceful coexistence so that everyone can think logically, can think constructively, and do everything for the greater good. And the greater good is humanity. Not just one person, not just a group of people that think that, oh, well, we got the monopoly on this, that, and the other, you know, and we're going to make sure that a whole bunch of other humans are not going to benefit, but we're going to benefit. And that is the mind of a selfish, arrogant, narcissist, you know, of people. And you can't really personally call it human. I call it like animalistic type of, you know, ungodly, unchristlike, you know, creatures there. Creature features there, as a matter of fact, to add. But if you're not going to try to resolve an issue, then, you know, for those who want to resolve an issue, want some source of sense of normalcy and peace and some sense of peacefulness and so on, then, you know, the ones that are like-minded stay with those who are like-minded, you know, and that's it. And like you said, it's love is one emotion that's very important. That's gonna, you know, should cause a better shift in the paradigm for all this chaos to go out the window or to go out in outer space, you know.
Yes, you know? And love is a choice too. You know, when you're choosing.
Witnesses.
Talking to, hold on just a minute. This is me. I'm talking to the chat under YouTube. Are you guys doing okay, or does somebody's invitation need to be revoked, or are we doing okay in the chat room? just checking in. Just checking in. I know there's some things being said that is pretty intrusive. But if you guys are cool with it, I'm fine with it too. Okay here? Okay.
You know,
To
Linda,
be
this is
some
what
good
I
back and forth
want
going
people
on.
to understand.
Hold on just a second, Daniel. What did you
You
say,
know,
Pete?
I
okay,
said
go ahead.
Hold on just a second.
there seems to be some
Go
good
ahead,
back
Pete.
and forth going on right now
Yeah,
in the
I'm seeing
YouTube.
that too.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so all about letting it happen. Cool. Okay, audience. Okay, chat room. Thank you for giving me a little bit of feedback, and thank you for sharing your thoughts, Mr. M. It's all good. Okay, go ahead, Daniel.
You know, I was just thinking of some might be listening and go, okay, what is he saying? What's that have to do with Jehovah's Witnesses? Like I went off topic. If you really step back and look at it, the Watchtower uses every world event as a doomsday. Oh, see here, Armageddon's coming. See, the world's turning on each other. Then all of a sudden they're gonna turn on religion and turn on Jehovah's Witnesses, and bam, it's like touching God's eyeball, and Armageddon's here. What people have to realize is history repeats itself. If you go back
It
to
does,
the
yes.
Depression, long before we ever were alive, if you were a Jehovah's Witness, what would you be thinking during the Great Depression? It's got to be the Great Tribulation. It's got to be Armageddon. Well, think of what those people. I guess even if you just even go outside of Jehovah's Witnesses, Christianity, or just what people have been thinking anyway. Did they see a light at the end of the tunnel? Did they see? Were they just like, oh my God, this is the end? This is, how do we survive? People were dying left and right of starvation, and couldn't support their families. And if you just look at history, it repeats itself. And it does not mean it's the end of the world. It just means we're going through a cycle and we bounce back. And the Great Depression wasn't the first thing we've ever experienced in humanity. You know what I'm saying? Go back and to the beginning of times and go forward. We've experienced wars and murders and rapes and food shortages and all kinds of stuff. But
and there was a pandemic long time ago too.
On that.
Thank you. I was just going to say that, Hitley. Thank you. Spanish flu is just happening right then. Yeah.
You can't even compare our pandemic to the Spanish flu. This pandemic here was a joke.
How so?
Well, statistically speaking, the death rate from this pandemic didn't even break 1% of the world's population, whereas the 1918, the World War I Spanish flu killed like over 10% of the world's population. So how can you possibly compare? Or go back, if you want to go back to the Black Plague, which killed almost a quarter of the people on Earth, now that was a pandemic. This thing here
that was pretty horrendous, yeah.
This thing here is just a bunch of people catching a bad cold. But we can't talk about that because we're going to get a strike on YouTube. So I try not to talk about.
I work at a.
I see what you're saying.
Hospital here I work at a hospital here in Marquette, Michigan, and it's the biggest hospital in the area. So people get flown in from all the small towns. In Michigan's, in Marquette, is only like, I think it's like 40,000 population, but we have a huge ass hospital, and so people are flown in all the time. with different health conditions and whatnot. And COVID is on the rise again. We have an average of 6 to 10 COVID a day.
Can't say that C word. Dan,
here's the thing.
Dan, you can't say that C word on YouTube.
What's that?
You can't say the C word on YouTube. They'll strike the channel.
I'll pronounce it with a K. I won't use C, I'll use K. You know, okay, so if I know I've brought this up before, and whoever's aware of kinesiology, muscle testing, whatnot, you can always Google it and understand how we're all energy, and you can muscle test what weakens the body, what makes the body stronger, blah, blah, blah. When we were under the mask mandate in the beginning of COVID, I started muscle testing, wearing a mask. Does that actually protect us from COVID? And I actually got, not only did it not protect us, it actually could cause lung infections. Guess what came out on the news? It's been almost 2 years since I did that. Today on the news, I was at the hospital, I was on break, and the doctors, different doctors were coming out and now saying that the bacteria collect in the mask. And when you're wearing your mask all day long, or, you know, like say if you have to wear it at work, it actually causes lung infections. And the lung infections were far worse than COVID. And they said that this is coming out by major doctors with the studies that have been done and showing that wearing a mask all day long at work, you're putting yourself in danger. And I just thought to myself, I don't know. It's crazy, the propaganda and all the stuff's been done. Now we got this whole monkeypox thing, and they're saying, now they're starting to promote this as a fear. But it was
actually, I'm going to be totally rude, but I don't know if you know this, Daniel. So Rick has already gotten 2 strikes from 2 other videos. So I'm
2 strikes.
He's gotten through YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of just going to kindly request we shift this subject to something else. And I've never done this, okay? I've never done this to be like saying nobody can talk about a certain subject, but I'm super concerned that he's going to get a 3rd strike and his channel would be gone. Go ahead, Daniel. What?
Oh, okay, I got you. No problem.
And I believe in your freedom of speech too, but I just don't want the consequence of some freedom of speech that's already happened, and then possibly what could be talked about tonight to affect this channel, if that makes sense.
We believe in freedom of speech. YouTube
what would you like to talk about?
Go ahead and say that again, please, Pete.
I said, we believe in freedom of speech. YouTube doesn't. As a matter of fact, I had one of my videos taken down because I said the C word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you guys. Okay. So what would you guys like to talk about? I apologize. I didn't mean to cause any issues.
Yeah, and I don't think you intentionally are, and I'm just going, here's what's been going on. So thanks for working with me on that. But yeah, there's been a lot going on with that. The mother that's killed her baby. I just really hope that she gets the care that she needs. I hope that they find out what was going on with her. Pete and I do have a bit of a disagreement. He's coming from his point of view. I'm coming from mine. So we have a disagreement on this, but it's not one of those we can't be friends anymore kind of things. But
well, hey, I could be funny, but I doubt it.
We could be what?
I could be wrong.
Yeah, missed.
Doubt it. For those of you, I'm not being haughty. That's an inside joke between Linda and I. When Linda sent me a T-shirt with that saying on it.
Yep. Because it's usually not the he's not wrong. He could be wrong, but he doubts it. And that came from Sensibly Speaking, who is someone who does a channel who used to be a Scientologist. And it's just one of those things he'll say off the cuff. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. And I had ordered some merch, and then I was getting to know Pete. I'm like, this is going to be great on Pete. It's just great. So that's where that came from. But yeah, I'm hoping that gal gets help. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, well, I was going to say about the girl. The news article was talking about how the defense attorney was requesting a psychiatric evaluation, and that's a pretty standard thing, for a defense attorney to do, because they're trying to like introduce maybe a mental competency thing or whatever. But her family, once she committed this act, was like, geez, maybe we should have her evaluated for some other type of mental health issue, because maybe there are other factors. Probably the best way to describe the situation is it's a confluence of a bunch of bad situations. There may be the postpartum depression, could play a part. Her disability could play a part. Misinterpreting Stephen Lett's comment could play a part. But whatever the thing is, all these things came together, and the result was tragic. So the more information we can find out about her, may increase our understanding, but it certainly isn't going to forgive her for what she did.
So yeah, I agree with you, Pete. And then, if this is, I can't imagine what it's going to be like from here forward, for her living. Like, sometimes people will have had some episodes that they didn't know was coming. They are informed what they have done that was a criminal offense. Sometimes they'll give them some medication and they will be what is called stabilized. And they will be shocked that they even did what they are being informed of that they even did. So my ex used to work in a prison for the criminally insane. And what would happen is, just before they could get out, to go to the courts and they were getting ready to be released, they would take them. This is, some people would do this because of the horrendous crimes that they had done, that they, sometimes they would take themselves off their meds so that the judge would tell them, no, you can't go out into society at large. And because they want to stay there in that, because they know they're not going to hurt somebody where they stay there. They're afraid that they might do that again, whatever that was, if that makes sense. So I just hope she gets the help she needs and can find a place in her heart, and I'm not trying to say anything lightly about this baby. It's truly tragic what happened.
Think about that. Like, if, I don't know what the laws are like down in Ecuador, what type of sentencing might be involved. But let's say she has a term of 15, 20 years. So she'll be like 45 when she gets out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
But does she return to the congregation?
Good question.
People know what she did. Are they going to be accepting her with open arms? Or like maybe they'll love bomb her when she first gets there, but they'll always be looking at her, like over their glasses type of thing. You know?
Yeah,
And
if they have wind of what the event was, that's a good
and
point.
like myself being the male, being a father, if my wife killed my baby,
Right.
I can't even fathom, you know, can't even fathom what my reaction would be to that. You know?
I'm so glad you just brought that up because there is a husband in this story, and I haven't mentioned him.
Right.
And
It's
thank you.
like, and you know, the newspaper article said, you know, he was the one that she told, I killed the baby because I saw the devil in him. And it's like, yeah, that would be like reeling. You would just like, I'll tell you that it's gonna put a crimp in the marriage. It would have to. Yeah, I mean, it's just mind blowing.
Right. Right. By the way, so my ex would also get to accompany the they would, I guess they were called patients or clients. The Jehovah's Witnesses did hold church there. So while in, if that's like here in America, she will be entitled to go to Jehovah's Witness meetings. They'll have, like, these prisoners have rights for them to be able to worship and stuff in their own religion. So that's something she'll have if that's what they do over there. Usually around this time, I will start talking about how I'm going to go just to the phones and continue the show. And that number is 727-731-6701. I like to use the first 2 to 3 hours here on YouTube, and sometimes sound will get a little strange, and that would be another reason why I would go to the phones. But it's a continuation of the conversation that we're having, that we'll be having over the phone. So Daniel's on the phone. That's how he's was having conversation with us. Same thing with Hitley. Same thing with Miss Pixie. And that number is again 727-731-6701. So that's something we'll do in a few minutes, but we can continue to talk now.
Yay!
Oh, that's so funny. Mr. M is getting quite elaborate in his opinions. It's kind of funny. I mean, not funny, interesting, rather interesting.
He's kind of all over the place, you know.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
You know, I think half the stuff he's saying is he's just saying it just to try to get a reaction. You know,
I'm gathering that too.
Actually, he's doing what I like to do a lot at parties. You know, because I'll talk to a group of people, and I'll agree with one, and then I'll agree with the person who's arguing with them, and that really confuses the hell out of everybody. I've pretty much been doing that, you know, so it's kind of funny. I enjoy his passion.
That's true. You know, he even though Mr. M is inactive, he does have his passion. So that's not PME, but physically out, mentally in. That's what we affectionately call you, Mr. M. Physically out, but mentally in. Meaning your mentality is still very much the way of the indoctrination that you've received as a Jehovah's Witness, even though you're inactive and not attending meetings right now.
I mean,
so yeah.
He seems to be a big fan of Jesus, so we're going to put him as a Christian. You know, but of course we know that Jehovah's Witnesses are not Christians. You know, so he seems like he's defending the Watchtower, but yeah, I think he's doing it just to be a double advocate. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he talks a lot like a JW, you know. Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a whole lot of threats and accusations.
Satan's behind you. You know, I laugh
Yeah.
at talking about the Great Tribulation's coming. Yeah, I did a video on the Great Tribulation. If you look up the scriptures in the Bible, it tells you exactly how long the Great Tribulation is going to be. You know, and if you look up scriptures in, I believe it's First Peter or Second Peter and Revelation, the Great Tribulation is going to be 10,000 years long. So good luck dealing with
Isn't that a trip?
Yeah. So it's not going to
so
be
Mr. M, I was just going to say, Mr. M says, as much as you're not in the org, you're still in the devil's pit. I'm sorry, Mr. M. I thought you were inactive and therefore not going to meetings. Where does that put you, Mr. M? Because it sounds like you're kind of there where you're accusing whoever you're accusing that they're in the devil's pit. It's very fascinating.
Yeah, it's
so yeah.
He's kind of like all over. He's just throwing out a lot of generalizations. You know, well, he's talking just like a JW.
I agree, and I think this
loaded language. He's got all the red flags. You know, all the programming. You know, he's talking the talk, but apparently he can't walk the walk.
But I'm noticing this chat are handling themselves and just like giving it. It's really cool what y'all are saying back. Call in, Mr. M, and talk to Linda. Call in, Mr. M. That would be awesome. That number is 727-731-6701. Hi, plastic surgery, Beth. I haven't seen you in such a long time. It's really good to see you.
Well,
really good to see you.
Keyboard warriors. You know, these type tend to be keyboard warriors. They just sit there and type stuff. They'll never want to hop on a phone and talk to you.
No, they won't. They don't. They can't. They can't. They can't do face-to-face, one-on-one, and have an actual conversation.
They can't, you know, have the instant recall. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can only react the way they're programmed to react. You know, they're not allowed to improvise or think on their own.
And I feel the mental anguish that he's in right now too. So that kind of my heart's going out to him too. You know. Thank you, Plastic Surgery Beth, for saying hi back. That's cool. It's you know what, Mr. M, you're going to have a better peace of mind if you spent more time listening to your own intuition and spent a little bit more time using your own reasoning skills, because the talk that you're talking, sir, is doomsday cult talk. So
he did say earlier on, he was saying, you know, we're supposed to love one another. That's true. You know, I agree with that. But then he starts talking about Satan and Satan and Satan.
It's fascinating to me when I hear talk similar to this. We're supposed to love someone, and then it's like you're sitting in the devil's pit. It's like
we're supposed to love each other. You're doomed.
Right? It's just like, and how are we doing on the love thing? You know, are we in harmony yet?
Do not judge, lest ye shall be judged yourself. So, Mr. M, everything you're saying, you know, I'm rubber, you're glue. What you say bounces off me and sticks onto you.
And see, now's the classic. Now, sorry to interrupt you, Pete, but it's like, so Mr. M is saying, so Jesus is a doomsday cult.
No, the
That is
Watchtower is.
that is cute.
Yeah.
That is cute because it's that's called a like he's reaching for a thing of authority. If he can talk as though he's speaking for Jesus and he's on the Jesus side, nobody can say anything to him.
No, the Watchtower.
He's pulling the God card.
Not Jesus.
Go ahead. Right?
No.
It is admirable how much Mr. M does talk about Jesus, though. It sounds like you've done some of your own independent study on Jesus and, his personality. So I really want to encourage you to do more of that, because you might.
Definitely a Christian.
Yeah.
Mr. M's definitely a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I might think that, I might think that the last church he actually attended could be like one of the Southern Baptist, congregations, or maybe even Church of Christ.
Or, yeah. Church of Christ has got a very unique style. And
Right.
it used to be, back when I knew about it more, and I don't know if it is this way now. Did you say, yep, like Mr. M, you're part of Church of Christ? Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense then. So you're now part of Church of Christ, and you're in an inactive Jehovah's Witness, meaning you haven't been going to the meetings for at least 6 months in a row without turning in 10 hours of service time. Congratulations on that. And if you're finding yourself at peace with where you're at, I don't know why you're still talking Jehovah Witness talk. It's. I wonder if that church is the Church of Christ talking similarly to the teachings from the Jehovah's Witnesses, Mr. M? He says something about pagan churches, so I don't know what I don't know what that answer is about.
Yeah, that's just more Watchtower talk.
Yeah.
If you're not a Jehovah's Witness, it's a pagan church.
Okay. Jesus did not claim ours. Good for you, Mr. M. You're on your way, dude. You are on your way. And this today is a simple little pit stop, but you are on your way to right where you need to be. Yeah, looks like it's going to happen. So yeah, the Ugly Watchtower. Hi, Ugly Watchtower. She was like, "How old are you, Mr. M?" See, I love the way that this chat room is so like they're interested in him. Like they're asking him true questions and they're answering him with statements of no, that's not what this means, and no, that's not what that means. Oh, he's too old. Okay, he's that kind of wisdom. Okay.
Old enough to know better and still too young to care.
Yeah.
Although
I make a statement?
Sure.
Hello?
Oh, hi, it's Susan. Hi.
Hi, Susan.
Curious what you're talking about. And Mr. M, it's, if you try to push yourself too hard, too fast, you can get very confused because your mind is slowly getting rid of those JW thoughts, and it takes years. And you know yourself, Linda, how long has it taken you to really get a lot of that out of your brain? Because the witness
40 years. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I find myself, I've been out since 2010, and I'm still working at it diligently. I find myself sometimes thinking the way that Jehovah's Witnesses think. And even Rick and I, when it comes to the holidays, we're not that big on them. We don't really celebrate them that much. So I think that's a leftover from Jehovah's witness thinking. So it takes time to know where you really, sometimes you're like a pendulum. You're a witness, and then you swing the other way, and then and eventually you will find your space where you belong, where the pendulum is supposed to be. But 6 months is nothing, really, in my opinion.
True. And maybe you can't. Yeah, I was talking about the 6. That's what qualifies somebody for being inactive. So I was talking. I don't think he has made it clear to me that anything about 6 months, but I associated it in my head and said 6 months because that's when you are officially JW definition inactive. That's why I said that. But yeah, he's got an independent mind. Yeah.
Mr. M says, I could pass for curious brother.
I saw that.
Some guy.
A what guy?
Some guy.
I'm missing that word.
Handsome.
Okay. Yeah, he's. And he's where he's at in his journey. Yeah. Let's see what else. I don't have a issue with the org. Not up to me. Okay. That's good if you don't have an issue with the org. Pete and I are not here to convince you to have an issue with the org. So, if you ever do, then you will, and then you'll deal with it. Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Mr. M. I was like hesitating. I was all hesitating to read it out loud. Mr. M, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at me, okay? He left a message. It says, Jesus is going to fix your issues. But when he first wrote it out, the word fixed was spelled a little differently. I do this all the time, Mr. M. That's so funny. But he wrote it in fix. I'm like, yay, thanks.
He corrected that very quickly.
As much as they're making. So, Mr. M, can you tell me a little bit about you? Are you, do you have any children, or are you married? Maybe you could answer that. And, oh, okay. Plastic surgery, yeah. Could be, yeah, could be. I remember speaking of the holidays, like Susan just did. They're not really big on the holidays. Well, I used to attend a church that they would have an All Saints Day. And so I decided to be a Jesus freak. I was a total Jesus freak. Mind you, this was a church that had Africans from Africa. Not like Afro-American. This wasn't really an Afro-American church, but that culture of Africa was there. And I was like one of the only white people there. So I used eyeliner and shadow. And I actually gave myself a really good beard and thicker eyebrows and let my hair just go curly. And I had a t-shirt on that literally said, Jesus freak. Jesus freak. And that was what I heard was nobody recognized me. I would think they would at least recognize my stature, but they didn't. So that was kind of funny. Yeah, so Mr. M loves Jesus. That's good. Do you have any children, or are you married, Mr. M? Oh, okay. Plastic surgery, Beth says. You've had great experiences, Linda. You know what? I really have. And because I left when I left, and I didn't end up having my kids grow up in the org, I really got to do things very differently. So, and I enjoyed doing it differently, but a lot of it was the first time of doing these things that were very foreign to me. So what was really cool about not having traditions was that I got to make my own traditions. So that was pretty cool. So Mr. M is saying, I'm not a hater. I just see mistakes. And then the next thing Mr. M says is a question mark. Right. People make mistakes. That's cool. People make mistakes, Mr. M.
It's not even so much that we're haters of the Watchtower, but you know, like I was a witness 50 years ago, and we didn't have the internet. If you wanted to look something up, you had to go to the library and actually pick up a book and read it. So we didn't have a lot of information available to us as far as what we're being taught. And, it was probably 35 years, 40 years after I left the organization before I even started speaking out against them. Because it was when I found out about how they protect pedophiles by using the two witness rule. And that just didn't sit well with me. And that started me to really investigate more in depth. Like I had always kind of doubted their doctrines, especially after 1975. That's when I started questioning the doctrines. But as far as their cult activity, that didn't really come into my scope until a couple of years ago. And so all I do with my videos is try to inform people about what the Watchtower teaches, how it's contrary to the Bible, and to show how this cult operates in controlling people's lives, restricting their information, controlling their emotions, controlling their thoughts, controlling their behaviors. So if trying to warn people about a deadly cult is showing hatred towards the cult, maybe so, but it's out of love for the people who watch my videos that I do it, because I want to make them aware of the danger. And I don't think I could put it any differently than that.
And I think, too, that when you bring this stuff out, Pete, it's really, you're talking about these doctrines and stuff that the governing body has put together that the members are expected to receive and accept. Mm-hmm. So, and then they're told that that's their own conscience. So I think there's a bit of a dilemma there. So, yeah.
Right.
I do enjoy the way you put together your videos, yes. And you know what else? You put in the links too. Okay. Yeah. I'm totally talking on you. Sorry about that. Go ahead now, please.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Uh-oh. I do that all the time.
It'll come back to me.
It's not the cult, Pete. It's their people in it. See, I'm thinking if we're talking about the organization, there's a leadership, and then there's different levels that go. This is a hierarchy. The higher up you go, the less people there are there. The upper echelons, all the way up to the governing body, possibly some shareholders. But the ones, most of them are what is considered rank and file members. And not much of what goes on higher up here is ever explained to the rank and file members. And after they've had a Bible study, to believe that God is using them to speak to His people, then it they're encouraged to no longer trust in their own intuition, no longer trust in their own understanding, and definitely not their heart, because it's treacherous. So after they're taught this stuff, then it's compared, so do you want to trust yourself or do you want to trust God? And most people think to themselves, well, God's obviously a superior choice. So they little by little give away the way that they used to think, and they change their thinking to where I need to rely more and more on the direction I'm getting from the organization. So yeah, that's how a top-down hierarchy happens. So I think the people, for the most part, are victims, but I also think that the leadership, the way they train a good amount of the rank and file, they're taught to be much like the leadership as far as being narcissistic, and that would be a good thing for you to look up to. I mean, to look at it, to look up and study about too, Mr. M, is the characteristics of a narcissist. You might find that very fascinating. Yeah.
And Mr. M makes a point here, comment. It's not the cult, it's the people in it. People hide in cults to practice.
That's true.
And
That's true.
There is a percentage, again, the Jehovah's Witness organization is known as a pedophile's paradise because of the fact that the leadership protects them with the two-witness rule. And so, yes, there are pedophiles who go to the organization just so that they can practice what they're doing and get away with it. That's not the vast majority, so I can't fault everybody that's a Jehovah's Witness. Most of these people were either born in or brought in as children. And so it's basically like, no, this is how they were grown up. And you always fall back on how you're raised. So here I am, 61 years old now, and there's still pieces of the indoctrination that, are in my subconscious, and I have to be aware of that when I'm doing stuff. But, I would say the vast majority of the members, the rank and file members of Jehovah's Witnesses, are just people who are trying to live a good life. And those are the people that I'm trying to help. And to make them aware of the fact that the leadership that they're following are a very deceitful group.
And might not have their best interest in mind, meaning the members' best interest in mind, and could actually have their own best interest in mind, meaning the leadership's. Yep. So some of the stuff that you get directed to do is actually things that would serve the corporation, Yeah.
I'm just worried that, I see a lot.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Hi, Susan. Sure.
Hi. I agree with Pete about how you're raised as a child really affects how you view things, but I wanted to mention about the organization and how the upper echelon really is evil. And one thing that Rick saw when he was invited to Bethel for his interview for the governing body, they showed him a picture of a man standing on top of huge amounts of gold and silver and treasures. And Rick couldn't believe that they would have such a picture in the governing body's offices. But Brother Loesch explained to him that the domestics are, they are in charge of the domestics and their funds, all their money.
Yep.
That's the purpose of Watchtower. After Rick said, forget it.
That's interesting.
Until you view the Watchtower as a business, it's a Bible and tract society. It's business. And the business just wants to survive. So it'll do whatever it takes to survive. And they're like Jimmy was talking about the stock options. Just one stock that the Watchtower owns, 1,500 shares of Berkshire Hathaway. It's one of the 5 richest companies in the world. So they have money, and they are in it for the money. And you have to remember that. The peons, us when we were on the bottom, we didn't see that.
Yeah.
We just sang songs and went out in service, and we never thought that all they
Right.
wanted was our money. And in fact, the assemblies, the district assemblies, they don't call them district assemblies anymore. I forget what they call them, but that was their biggest money-making scheme of the
Yes.
year. They made more
Yes.
money than any other time. So if people are wondering, oh, is the Watchtower good or not? Well, it can be good. You can learn scriptures. You can learn to discipline yourself. You can learn how to dress nice and how to be a public speaker. Fine, that's all well and good. But you could learn that at other places in the world. But they're trying to make you think this is the only place in the world that you can be to do the right thing. And it's not. It's there for your pocketbook, and that's the end of it.
Very good points.
Did I say something wrong?
No, I was just saying very good points, yes.
Just kind of letting it sink in.
Well, Pete
And so Mr. M just made a comment. Please say that again, Susan. What?
No, I was just saying, that's great.
Cool. So Mr. M just made a comment, it's Jehovah's money, no good to them when dead. Okay. I suppose he's talking about the living.
God makes all the money. I mean, God makes all the money. He doesn't need money. He is money. He's made the money. He's made the gold. He's made the silver. He's made the diamonds. He's made the riches. He doesn't need any riches. He has as much as he needs.
Right. It kind of reminds me of an old joke I heard. You know, a Catholic priest was passing around the collection plate, after the service. The altar boy says, "What do we do with the money?" He goes, "Watch." And he takes the plate and he throws it up in the air. And he says, "God will take what he wants and the rest is for us."
That's true.
It is. Oh, it really is. I tend to.
I can see Garrett Lotion, Tony Morris in the offices of the Watchtower doing the same thing.
Yep. I've been thinking about, that statement that Let said about an infant being an enemy of God. The whole governing body had to sit at that big long table down at headquarters and agree that this would be something they would say. I just can't fathom it.
And it's
just can't fathom it.
Not like they did it like in a little morning service thing where only the most hardcore of Jehovah's Witnesses will hear it. No, they
right.
Put it, no. The first talk, the first 38 minutes of the whole.
You're right.
It's being broadcast worldwide. And it had nothing to do with the topic of the entire talk. It was kind of like he's giving a talk, and then put in this little 2-minute segment in the middle, unrelated to everything, and then he
he continues on with pursue peace because
what's going on here?
I know. Pursue peace because you definitely don't have it yet. And the way to pursue peace is to be a friend of Jehovah.
If you think about it, how about quoting the scripture, Stephen? Not even like, if they're trying to really deceive you, they'll just say, well, as it says in, Matthew so-and-so, and they'll just keep talking without actually reading the scripture. But he didn't even try to protect that. He was
You're right.
like, if you think about it. Yeah.
That's so true if you think about it. Since we're all born into sin.
And I'm not going to even try to attempt a scripture on this one because there are none. Every scripture in the Bible refers to children is the opposite of what I'm saying. So we'll
right.
disregard
that. Joe 4747. Yes, man.
What I think is what I think is interesting is none of the governing body have children. None of them. Only one governing body member, and he's dead now. His name was Brother Schroeder, and he has a son named Judah Ben, who he turned into a lawyer for the Watchtower, who is now practicing law at the Watchtower. They sent him to college, believe it or not.
correction.
Oh, Brumley? Brumley,
know
yeah.
What children are all about.
Correction.
Even Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me." He said, if anyone would harm one of these little ones, it would be better for them to have a millstone tied around their neck and thrown into the sea. So just picture this brother gave this informative talk about children and babies and just picture him with a millstone around his neck being thrown into the sea, because that's really what God thinks. And every time they use the name Jehovah, it doesn't mean God. It means the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Just one correction on that. Toni Morris has 2 sons.
Pardon?
Toni Morris has 2 sons.
Oh, he does? Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm incorrect.
The only born-in witnesses on the governing body are Stephen Lett and Mark Sanderson. All the others had worldly lives before they became witnesses. As a matter of fact, the other 6 are all apostates from other religions who then became Jehovah's Witnesses.
Very good point. And I've heard the latest one, Cook, used to actually be somebody in the realm of Mormonism, but I have not found anything to confirm that. I've just kind of heard it a couple of times. Have you heard this, Pete or Susan?
Cook is probably the most boring individual I've ever witnessed, and so I've done very little research on him, only for the fact that it puts me to sleep. So,
but he looks like Hank Hill in a real darling way, though. And I kind of like Hank Hill from King of the Hill. Hank Hill always speaks reason. Yeah. But yeah, the resemblance is pretty cool. Pretty similar. Let's see here. Mr. M says,
Clarence Tony has 2 sons. Is he the one behind Bottlegate? Yes.
Tony
Morris is the star of the Bottlegate video. My favorite part, the 2 things that I love about that video. The fact that he never attempts to witness to the person. You know, usually the witness is the one trying to force a conversation. This guy started the conversation with Tony, gave him an opening, and Tony didn't witness to him. And the other thing is, at the end of the video, after putting in his $900+ worth of scotch into the backseat of his Cadillac, Tony bends over to pick up a coin on the ground.
Did he? That's a definite.
He's pushing the carriage to go put the carriage in the little corral thing. He stops, bends over to pick up a coin. Like that's going to help him recoup his investment.
Wow, that's a habit. Definite habit.
Oh, yeah. I'm wondering, since there probably won't be any distilleries in the new system, is he just like stocking this up for eternity?
That's possible.
Like
that is very possible.
Underground bunker somewhere just full of McClellan. And
Well, you know,
Little over there, Jameson for his wife. Yeah,
that could be possible.
he drinks the good
I
stuff.
remember, he does, yeah.
Yeah. The wife drinks the
I me-
swill. He gets the good stuff.
She's a cowgirl. She drinks that. She drinks that. That the ordinary stuff. I liked a video that Kevin McFree did, and it was a parody of an actual event that happened when some Jehovah's Witnesses got a hold of some tea,
Yes.
drank it, and had strange results. And what I realized, because I watched the video within the last couple of months, and and this is in Dubtown, and Kevin McFree does this, works with Legos and does this, I don't know what it's called, where it stops and he keeps taking a picture.
Photography. Stop
Yes, he
motion
does that, which is real. You have to be real disciplined to do this. So he did a video of the situation that did happen in real life of these Jehovah's Witnesses that ended up drinking some tea, and in his version with the Legos, he talks about the tea, or they're talking about the tea, and then they add in, it's for medicinal. I can't even say the name now. Medicinal purposes. Am I saying it right? Medicinal, yes. Medicinal purposes. This makes all the sense in the world. Go ahead.
A word I've become very familiar with over the last few weeks.
Okay.
Medicinal purposes.
Yes. And so when I heard that word added, I was like, this explains how they ended up. This story is one of the most outlandish stories ever. Some Jehovah's Witnesses drank some tea, ended up naked, kidnapping the neighbor next door and her baby, and putting them in the car with them as they escaped because they really thought Armageddon was hitting. So that was something that was, long story short. That almost sounds like Rick's phone is ringing. Say that again, Pete. What?
That was a great video.
Yeah, it was. They were dancing around and everything was. Yeah, it was.
Just to watch the video, it was an entertaining video. But then when you find out it's in the context of a true story, it makes it all the more, genius. It's absolutely true.
Yes, and the story, the true story it was based on, it's really sad. Any one of us could have accidentally drank some tea if it was offered to us by someone we trust, right? So any one of us could have had a bad day like that and had these delusions and wanted to rescue our neighbors, right? Because Armageddon was going to hit. And somewhere in between there, we all took off our clothes. And I'm thinking that was probably because they got overheated. I think maybe the tea made them feel hot or something like that. But yeah, that was it.
That little bunker, Get hot. All those bodies in a little tight place and, hallucinate, during my younger days, I spent a lot of time under the influence of hallucinogenics, and it can be very physically exhausting.
Is that right?
I understand the getting overheated part, yeah.
Oh, that's part of it, huh? Okay. Wow. Okay. So, yeah, that's one of those stories that we got to hear about that is just such an embarrassment all the way around. I think that they got to that place on pure accident. Pure accident. And then it's so outlandish, and then we find out that they're Jehovah's Witnesses. Why? Because part of their illusion or delusion was we had to save the neighbor and their newborn baby. I think maybe even the husband too, because Armageddon was going to hit, so they had to, so I think that part of the story had to come out, which brings it back to that whole doomsday cult kind of thing.
All of them. And the Canadian newspapers had a blast covering that story.
They did. Yeah, they did. So I'm going to share the number again, which is 727-731-6701. And Mr. M, it's been nice having you with us tonight. Kate B, it was good to see you show up. And Smokeless Choice, it was good to see you as well. JW Suicide and Ugly Watchtower was in the room too. There was a few other people that yes, definitely. Bob Roberts.
Lawyer.
So I'm really glad you guys showed up tonight. I'm going to be transferring over to simply doing the phone call, so this show will continue. And if you're not over the phone listening to it, which you can also bring your thoughts to the table and give some comments, you're welcome to do that too. So, Pete, I'm really, really glad you joined us today, because it's really good to see you feeling better.
Yeah, I'm
I think. And plastic surgery, Beth. There she is. Okay. If I missed somebody, I'm sorry. But yeah, this is the highlight of my week. And I'm so thankful you guys showed up. So this is Linda James, your favorite apostate. I'm going to say goodbye here on the YouTube channel. And next weekend, I will not be here. Next weekend, I will be spending time with my daughter who's in town from Hawaii. And she has some things planned for the she has some social things planned, namely a bonfire at the beach. So yeah, that's where I'll be next weekend. So, but I do plan on coming back the weekend after that. Okay? And I will talk with you guys next time. Bye-bye.